Spot On Sports is brought to you by the Belfast Gastropub, where love stories begin. Located at 101 North Wellwood Avenue, Lindenhurst, New York.
Now it's time for Spot On Sports. Here's your hosts, Mike Trezor and Mike Cadone.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spot On Sports, New York's premier sports talk show where we talk sports, all New York sports, and nothing but New York sports. My name is Mike Trezor, the great Michael Anthony at the controls tonight. We've got plenty to discuss with you tonight. Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants. We've got a special in-studio guest we'll get to in just a moment. Before we do any of that, let me say hi to my co-host, the coach, Mike Cadone.
Trez, great to be back. You know, after a little hiatus, I apologize. I only Acura in the entire world that breaks down on a weekly basis. But hey, listen, it's great to be back. You know, each time we sit down and talk, there's always something new. Wonderful to have Jets and Giants talk, even though not the greatest debut for either team. But we got Yankees, Mets, you name it, we're going to talk about it.
And before we do any pro sports, folks, we have a great story with a great guest. We want to introduce him right now. His name is Brad Merila. He's an old friend of mine. He's been on the show before, but last time we had him on, we had a couple technical difficulties. Of course, that would never happen with the great Michael Anthony.
Not here.
At the controls. No, never. But anyway, we want to welcome back to the show the guy we call the stadium guy, Mr. Brad Merila.
Trez, Coach, it's great to be here again. Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to see you, Brad. And you folks will see on the table in front of us is Brad's handcrafted 2-scale model of Ebbetts Field. He has some exciting news about that, which we're going to share in just a moment. But just to give you guys some of the backstory, we had Brad on back in the spring. He had gotten some news from the Hall of Fame in terms of displaying this model as well as his Yankee Stadium model. But Brad, let's go back to the beginning of the story. So we're going to take you back to the 70s. Brad, you're a 12, 13-year-old kid. You came up with the idea to make a 2-scale model of the old original Yankee Stadium. Tell us when and where you got the idea and how long it took.
All right. As a Yankee fan growing up, I loved the old stadium. I was there many times. I just loved the grandeur and just the way that it looked, the way it presented itself and what it represented. And when the Yankees decided that they wanted to either move out of the city to either Dallas or New Orleans or even New Jersey, New York City decided to buy Yankee Stadium and the surrounding property and renovate the ballpark and make it modern, kind of like a Shea Stadium clone almost. And I, as great of an idea as that was, I was upset that they were going to take this beautiful stadium and make a modern stadium out of it. So I wanted to represent it as best I could in miniature form. So I gathered up every piece of information I could from newspapers, from pictures, from even pictures or films that I took myself at the ballpark. And once I developed all of that info, I decided to build this model starting from the time I turned 13 years old.
And you didn't know at the time just how long, how exhaustive a process it was going to be and how long it was going to take you. How long did it take you?
I had no idea it was going to take me 16 and a half years to finish it.
Crazy.
And there were obstacles and roadblocks throughout the way that stretched it out somewhat. No internet, no computers, nothing like that. No knowledge that we have today, no technology. So everything was based on manual pictures and drawings. I would look at it after maybe 2-3 years and I decided, well, I don't like the way this looks. So I would tear it out, redo it. And once I finally got it to the point where I was satisfied, it took maybe another 12 years to finish it. In February of '89 is when I actually finished it. But before that, about 5 years before that, I was 2 light towers away from the completion. I went to move it into another house where we were living. I put it on the upper shelf of the closet of the room that we did all of our hobbies in. The table I was bringing into that room where, ironically, I was going to build the model on. I put it down. The closet had a slope to it. It slid and it overturned, fell right on the roof, and I lost about 2/3 of the upper deck, the whole facade, the roof, and I was very, very upset. I couldn't even look at it. So
I was going to ask you, how long did it take then to get the energy to restart what you had lost?
It was another couple of years easily.
Wow.
So once I finally got myself motivated to do it again, I gathered up every broken piece that I could. Whatever I could save, I saved. There are still some broken pieces of that model that are still existing in it, including the entire straightaway on the third base side of the upper roof. There's a big crack in it. And
well, it's probably realistic, right? Or what the Yankee Stadium was at that time.
Well, yeah, it was in somewhat disrepair, and that's another reason that it was going to be rebuilt. But once I finished it in February of '89, that's when we decided to pursue some exposure. So local papers came into existence, then Newsday, then the Daily News, then the New York Times, then TV, News 12, Bob Wolf, interviews in Yankee games, an MSG piece, which was the last piece that was done in 1998. And then it just sat for a while, sat in my room. And I decided, well, we're gonna try to get this going again.
Yeah. And so let me stop you for a minute, Brett, and let's go to this one. After spending 16 and a half years on the Yankee one, where did you get the inspiration to start working on the one we see in front of us, which is the, again, 2-scale model, completely detailed down to the most minute details of the old Ebbetts Field?
My father, a diehard Brooklyn Dodger fan and celebrated Yankee hater, he made no bones about that. He said, well, you finished Yankee Stadium. Why don't you build Ebbetts Field? And I kind of took that to heart, and I said, okay, I will. So same thing, 1989, when I started this in September of '89, again, no internet, no technology. I was able to get a hold of a seating chart. So this one I didn't have to tear apart after I did it. I scaled it all out. It's 1 to 360, which means 1 inch is 30 feet. Both models are the same scale. And this one, in my opinion, I think is more detailed. I was older. I was more experienced as a model maker. So this one to me is more of a model and not like a piece of art, if you will.
Yes.
Like not a child, but somebody very young would start. And so this one, it looks more professionally done, and it came out really well.
It did. It's fabulous. And for our viewers, folks, if you haven't seen this, I don't know if you can get a good enough visual on it. There you go. That's a little bit of a better angle where you get some more of the detail. The detail on both of these is really incredible. Last time we had Brad on, he had both models with him. And the detail's incredible. So if you want to comment us, folks, if you have a question you want to ask Brad or just a comment about his models or anything you want to say to Mike and me, we'd love to share your comments on the show tonight. But Brad, I wanted to get to the point where you had gone through, as you mentioned, in the late 90s or anywhere from the late 80s to the late 90s, a series of interviews and media appearances, so forth and so on. So you got to the point where you decided, hey, you know what? I've got to start to think about a permanent home for these pieces.
Yes. Well, I have no heirs and nobody to leave them to, and I wanted to make sure that that both models had a permanent home. So the Hall of Fame expressed interest. The Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown expressed interest in displaying not one but both. And that's when we did the piece with News 12. We recreated in part a piece with Doug Gee that he had done in 30 years ago, actually, and on both models. And we revisited that piece, and that's when we announced that both models were going to the Hall of Fame. A day after that piece aired, I get an email from the Hall of Fame stating that due to space and storage limitations, we are respectfully declining your donation.
Wow. Yeah. And so I want to ask you, because you and I talked about it just really briefly off the air, and I'd never got a chance to dig into it with you. So that must have been kind of a kick in the teeth for you, no?
It was beyond embarrassing. It was demoralizing. I was very, very upset. And so I'm like, well, I need to try to pick up the pieces here. So what I did was I went on the Brooklyn Dodgers Historical Society. Actually, it's the Nostalgia Society page on Facebook. And I presented the whole scenario. And in the meantime, I had tried to get the Yankees Museum in the stadium to display the Yankee model. And 4 years in a row, I was rebuffed because of space and storage limitations. Now they have plenty of space there, so I'm not going to get into bad mouthing.
Yeah,
the organization.
It seems ridiculous.
But that being said, so I was rebuffed by them. So I was looking for other places to display. Actually, this model, I was concentrating on the Brooklyn Historical Society, the Jackie Robinson Museum, the New York City Museum. I was rebuffed by every one of them. Space and storage limitations. So that post got to the attention of the historian of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So in the meantime, before we get into that, the Ebbetts Field model, my wife had said to me, well, why don't you try other museums? So I'm sorry, the Yankee Stadium model, why don't you try other museums? So that's where the Babe Ruth Museum came into play.
Yeah. So let me stop and pick up that part of the story. So for folks who may not realize this, Brad, back in the spring, did an appearance on our show. He did another talk show, and then he did a long appearance on News 12 with Doug Gee,
yes,
which was an update of a story from 30 years earlier that
yes.
Doug had done on you. And then after all that was done, then you got the word from the Hall of Fame that they weren't taking the piece.
A day after the piece aired. Yeah.
So it kind of left you in scramble mode.
Yes.
And this is where the museum down in Baltimore came in. Why don't you pick up the story there?
Yes, the museum was very receptive. I had sent them some pictures. I sent them a little background, the story. And again, thanks to my wife, she's the one who got me to contact them. And so I did. They were receptive. And in April, I delivered the model to the museum, and it was stored in the archive room until today. Now it is part of the American Hercules Gallery in the museum, and it's a permanent fixture.
Let's take a look at that picture, Michael. If you could put on the picture of the Yankee Stadium model, which is now displayed, folks, at the Babe Ruth Historical Museum in beautiful downtown Baltimore in the waterfront district. What do they call that?
Yeah, the Inner Harbor.
Inner Harbor District. Exactly. Yes. So there you see it. That is Brad's beautiful Yankee Stadium 2-scale piece. It is now on this permanent display in the Babe Ruth Museum.
Yes.
Brad, I wanted to ask you, with the current state of stadiums in baseball and, almost everyone now having, at least with the exception, obviously, of the Cubs and the Red Sox, and somewhat debatable with the Yankees, having built new stadiums, is there something now that would pique your interest in perhaps doing another model for in the current day stadiums? In the current day stadiums? Take Citi Field out of the equation.
I would have to think about that. If I were to do one current day stadium, it would have to be Oriole Park and Camden Yards. It's one of the it's beautiful. It's very well done, very well conceived. It's just a great place to watch a game.
It's amazing because that was the first of the kind of new breed of ballpark that started this whole new trend.
Yes.
And You hit it right on the head. Anything you read about it, anything you see, I've been there myself a couple of times. It really captures the essence of these older ballparks, but in a great way.
It really does. And it has the interior has sort of the design of Ebbetts Field, only the stands don't go quite far out to center field, but it's the same. It's basically the same shape and the same design.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We had a comment, Brad, from a Facebook user, Jessica. She wants to know, is the display at the Babe Ruth Museum permanent?
Yes.
Or can you see it at some point in the future being displayed somewhere else?
No, it is permanently located at the Babe Ruth Museum and Birthplace in Baltimore.
Great. So that's fantastic. This one that we see here in front of us, our viewer John Reynolds says he loves the stadium in Baltimore. I guess he's talking about Camden Yards. But John, when you get down to Baltimore, make sure you visit the Babe Ruth Museum and see Brad's model there. In terms of this one, Brad, when is this one leaving for the coast? And how did it come about, the whole situation with the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Well, that situation, as I started to allude to earlier, in the Facebook group, the Brooklyn Dodgers Nostalgia Society, the historian of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Mark Langill, saw my post, contacted me, and he said, I have the perfect place for this model. What great timing. So from there, he put me in touch with Emily Walthouse, who is the assistant to Janet Marie Smith, who she is the guru, if you will, who has done all of these renovations to Fenway Park when she was working for the Red Sox. She's the one who basically designed and built Oriole Park at Camden Yards, and she's in charge of what they call the new front door at Dodger Stadium, which is in the outfield. That's where all of the exciting new renovations are being done, including a museum, which in the museum, this model will be part of a display depicting the transition from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. And in that display, as far as I know, there will be a home plate from Los Angeles Coliseum. There will be the original architectural model of Dodger Stadium before it was built, and I believe there will be an Ebbetts Field artifact as well.
That's great.
So yeah, this is going to take place hopefully in the next couple of weeks. The art shipping company is coming to my home to pack it up and send it out to Los Angeles.
Oh, that's fantastic that they're going to do that. You know, and it's funny, Brad, because listen, we don't want to put anybody down. I think that the Yankees missed a big opportunity to take your Yankee Stadium model and display it there. I think the Mets missed an opportunity to display this one, considering Fred Wilpon's fascination with Ebbetts Field, designing Citi Field after Ebbetts Field, the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. I mean, this thing belongs in Citi Field. They missed an opportunity, as did the folks up in Cooperstown.
And I did contact the Mets organization as well, but I never heard back from them. I don't know if maybe the email got lost somewhere, or it just
they're too busy on Twitter these days.
Yeah, well, it was
we'll
in
get
Zach's
to that in a minute with Chris.
It was in Zach Scott's car when he got pulled over at 4 a.m. for DWI. Hello.
Wait a minute, I wasn't going there, but that's
the thing with the Yankees, I just don't understand. They don't seem to. For the organization that they are, and I'm a fan. I've been a Yankees fan since 1967.
As have I.
Will be. They just don't seem to connect with their history as much as you would like them to.
Yeah, it's a shame.
They tout all the championships and blah 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 and the retired numbers. They don't put those pennants on the facade at Old Timers Day anymore like they used to. Like my Yankee Stadium model has all of the pennants that they won.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's dig into some of the details on this, Brad.
Okay.
In terms of exactly what it's made of and how exactly was it constructed. Give us the nuts and bolts and take us behind.
All right. This model took 22 months to build. It is made of mostly balsa wood. There are some plastic pieces in it. There's a plastic brick face in the entrance rotunda. And the rest of it is basically the same material that I used for my Yankee Stadium model, including for the lights, you have craft beads. There's about 800 craft beads that make up the lights. The foul ball screen and the screens behind the right field wall, and also
there you go. Look at that camera work too by Michael. I'm telling you, this is a pro.
They are made from pieces of my niece's wedding veil.
Wow, you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Wow,
yeah.
Amazing.
The field is made of model railroading material. Again, most of it is it's music wire, paper clips, staples, whatever I could get my hands on to recreate these details, like the fences. All of the advertisements in the scoreboard, hand painted.
Schaefer, or is it Rheingold?
It's Schaefer.
Schaefer
with the H and the E that depict a hit and an error.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
My model, they don't light up.
So Brett, I'm hoping you're going to stay with us a few minutes. By the way, congratulations on not just the Yankee Stadium model being dedicated just today. You and your lovely wife, Linda, were at the Yankee game last night.
Yes.
You were at the museum for the dedication ceremony today. Brad drove up here today and it was kind enough to give us a few minutes. So, Mike, we want to...
It's a great segue because, talking about the Yankees currently, as we are in production at the moment, playing Baltimore, it's 2-0 Yanks as we get to the bottom of the fifth. So to my two Yankee fans right here, of course, one of the things that kind of jumped out at me, and of course, we're going to talk in detail about the Yankees, but I always come back to starting pitching. Today we have Jordan Montgomery, who's doing a good job. The last time when he pitched against the Mets, he looked like a shell of himself. As we get to Jameson Taillon and Cortez who is coming back, where does the Yankees rotation figure in? Obviously, with hopefully when they get to the playoffs with a shorter series, or can we rely on them now? And where does Chapman and our bullpen for these New York Yankees, how do you feel about them going forward? Well, let's talk pitching first, then we'll go to hitting.
Yeah, I think it's really good questions, Mike. The rotation, listen, it's been banged up. Taillon was great in the middle of the season. Then he was really shaky, and I had a feeling there was an issue with him. So I'm hoping when he gets back off the IL, he'll be better. Cole's been a little bit mysterious. As soon as all the business with sticky stuff started, his record started going down, and then he's had some outings where he looks very much like that $320 million ace. Montgomery, as Brad and I talked about off the air, he's been pitched in a lot of hard luck this year.
Gets no run support.
No run support whatsoever. And Cortez, Mike, is the guy I think is really going to be a valuable piece, because Brad saw him start last night.
He was terrific. 11 strikeouts. He was terrific.
Yeah, and the thing is, to me, he can play a number of different roles, right? You've got Kluber, who was hurt for 3 months. What I was telling Brad, what I would do, I would make Cortez the caddy for Kluber, right? If Kluber gets blown out in the second inning, guess what? Kluber, you're out of here. You're out of here. Cortez will come in, and if it's 3 innings, if it's 5 innings, whatever it is, that's what we'll do. Yeah. So we need to see big things about the rotation. Brad, I'll let you take over the bullpen.
Yeah, the bullpen, they were a strong suit. I don't know what's happening to them now. Chad Green is a shell of himself. He keeps giving up home runs. Chapman, I don't know what's happening with him. Last night he looked pretty good, but I think he forgot how to throw a fastball, and he's relying on the slider too much, and he's getting hurt. I just don't know where this bullpen is going.
Yeah, it's funny, Brad, because last time we were on, I made a reference to wanting Jonathan Loaisiga to be the closer.
Yeah.
That night or the next day, Jonathan Loaisiga gets put on the IL. So it's been a big loss, and we're having to rely on guys like Lucas Lidke, Albert Abreu, Wandy Peralta. I mean, Joely Rodriguez. Mike, who are these guys?
Well,
Exactly.
it's really, though, a testament to their production that they've been able to keep the Yankees where they are. We had a question here from one of our viewers, Lenny Fishman, about the Yankees' chances here, finishing up with Tampa Bay, Boston, Toronto. Toronto here, has come out of nowhere, literally being the
tough.
strongest team in baseball with pitching. And not that they didn't have that in them, but they really are obviously peaking at the right time. Blessing or a curse here, guys, with that schedule going down to the wire. I guess if you can answer this question, we'd put all the money we could, right?
It's really hard to say. I don't see the Yankees getting the first wild card. I see them sneaking into the second.
Okay,
but then that's a 1-game playoff,
right?
And I don't know. I
because it really hasn't been. I guess for quite a while, it really hasn't been about the division for the Yankees, with Tampa Bay being so far out in
Tampa
front.
is just too good. They're not. The Yankees are not winning the division, and I hate to say that, but I believe that they're not going anywhere in the division.
Going back to Lenny's question, I think it's good to have teams obviously you're familiar with going down the stretch here, having played Boston and Tampa and Toronto. However, you think of Boston, somewhere still in the mix. Tampa is going to be in an interesting situation. Are they resting players? Are they not? Toronto is going full force. So it's not like you're going to be, playing teams that are out of it. Yeah. I'm assuming this is probably, although I'm not really in tune with the Yankee schedule, but I'm figuring this is their last go around with Baltimore.
It is.
Okay.
Today's their last game with Baltimore. Unbelievably, Brad, they've lost 7 games to the Orioles this season. How did that happen? They've got Cleveland and Texas next, so they have to make some hay against those teams. Getting back to the point you made earlier about having to play that 1-game playoff on the road, I honestly don't think that's a terrible thing. The Yankees lately have been better away from Yankee Stadium. I can't even believe I'm saying that, than they are at Yankee Stadium. So, yeah. I mean, to me, Mike and Brad, as long as they have Cole ready to go and loaded for that 1-game playoff,
he's the man in a 1-game playoff.
I think they're going to be in good shape. If they have to use him against Tampa, let's say, in order to get into that 1-game playoff, then you're going to be really in trouble.
Yeah.
If they have him, even if it's on the road, Mike, I think they'll be fine. And Cole, I mean, there is absolutely no chance for error. He has to step up and be the $300 man that they paid him to be.
Quick little segue now to the hitting. Breaking news, Joey Gallo has just cracked 200. He's over 200.
I still don't believe he's
with his 35th home run of the year.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. What's the score now?
They're still 2-0.
Still 2-0.
He put them on the board.
Okay.
73 RBI. So, again, you could talk about that pickup. But another question that came to us here, which, of course, is linked to the hitting. Should the Yankees, and it's not good for anybody, should they not make the playoffs? Selfishly, as a Met fan, all right, I don't come from the school that the Yankees are the enemy so much, in that now putting on my Spot on Sports hat, if we could have everybody in the playoffs, that's going to help our squad right here. But should the Yankees not make the playoffs? Aaron Boone, yay or nay?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Our friend Ray, our viewer Ray, and our buddy just asked. So I'll let you take that one, Brad. If they don't make at least a 1-game playoff, do you want Aaron Boone out of here?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know.
Come on, Brad, give us a yes or no.
I don't know if he makes all of these moves on his own. I think there's a lot of analytics involved. I think there's a lot of the front office involved. And I really hate to say this, but I do think that he's somewhat of a puppet. Okay. I really hate to say that, but that's the way I feel.
One more thing I want to ask you about, Brad, and I can't believe they finally got to this so late in the season, and it was the move to finally move Gleyber Torres off shortstop, and then they put him at second. He stinks there too.
I know. It's in his head right now. He's overdue for a change, and I think he should have been moved a while back.
But to do it with 5 games left in the season, does that even make sense?
Not really. You're shifting everybody around.
You think there's something behind the scenes that we don't know that precipitated that move at this point? Because it really doesn't. I mean, analytics, as you mentioned, I think everybody manages and puts their teams together with way too much analytical information as it is. To make a move like that goes against every type of analytics you would think. Yeah. Although, that's above my pay grade, I would think. But yeah, why are we moving somebody at that point?
Yeah, I think that they've been trying so hard, Mike, to hammer a square peg into a round hole, and they finally had to come to the realization, guess what? Gleyber Torres is not a shortstop. I said that a year ago. We
have a shortstop in Queens that might. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Let's see. We've got some good comments coming in. Keep those coming.
Brian Cashman, the puppet master, says John Reynolds.
And Lenny says he wants rid of Cashman too.
Well, listen, I've known Lenny since I was a young.
Is he a Met fan?
He is not. Okay. I have known Lenny since I was a young kid, and if one thing I can tell you about him, knowledgeable and passionate. Now he's been obviously knowledgeable of the Yankees and their success for a while. Do you think Yankee fans are almost at the point, almost like we might be inferring here, that some type of fresh air from the top down might be needed? I mean, maybe. Can you get so jaded? Might be the wrong word, but it's an expectation, and rightly so, that the Yankees are a player every year, and they should be, even if they get in, to the playoffs. Is that not good enough anymore?
I don't know. The Yankees, right? The Yankees have always been expected to go to the World Series every year by fans, by the organization, ownership, by themselves, and it's a high bar to set. It really is for any team, but for them it was a rite of passage. It was expected, and I just don't know. It may be time for a change.
Yeah, they've been so incredibly streaky. It's been a roller coaster ride this year, Brad.
Yeah,
between the 35-11 stretch and now the 2-11 stretch. I mean, it's been
all year.
It's been so streaky. It's been a roller coaster ride for them. Chapman's been a roller coaster ride, as you referenced. I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride for you. First getting a yes from the Hall of Fame, then getting a no, getting a yes from the Babe Ruth Museum, now getting a yes from the Dodgers. So there are some parallels there.
Look how everything has worked out, right? Disappointing, but now I believe, and I think we've alluded to this, that your models are in the right places,
absolutely,
to really truly be enjoyed. And along that front, I think that it's going to work out for the Yankees. One game playoff or not, they'll be making a little bit of noise. Are they good enough to make the World Series in a push? Probably not. But I don't think
on the Yankee Stadium model being displayed at the Babe Ruth Birthplace Museum down in the Inner Harbor area of Baltimore. Congratulations on this fabulous Ebbetts Field model being shipped out to California and being displayed by the Dodgers. We thank you so much for being our guest, and it was great to have you and speak with you.
I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have something else to talk about in the future.
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic.
We've still got Giants, Jets, Mets with Chris Caputo to get to. We're going to get to all of it, folks, right after a quick break here on Spot on Sports.
Hi, my name is Dave Crow, proprietor of Belfast Gastro Pub in beautiful downtown Lindenhurst. We are the heartbeat of the village, serving exceptional dishes throughout the day, created by our executive chef, James Tomlinson. Whether it's to dine in our purpose-built outdoor dining area that seats 60 persons, or to enjoy a pint or a cocktail at our 40-foot mahogany bar. We also have a private catering room that can accommodate up to 60 guests. Love stories begin at Belfast.
Now back to Spot on Sports with Mike Trezor and Mike Godone.
Attention all piano owners. Do you have an acoustic piano that's in need of a tuning, repair, or just a little TLC? Call Brad. Brad performs standard tuning, maintenance, cleaning, and repair work on your piano. Call Blues Man Piano Tuning, 631-681-9723. That's 631-681-9723. Or visit him on the web at www.bluesmanpianotuning.com. That's www.bluesmanpianotuning.com. Or email bluesmanpianotuning@gmail.com.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Spot on Sports. Mike Trez, along with the coach, Mike Gadone. It was great to have Brad here. And also, folks, we have to mention to you, even though we just played his commercial, if you have a piano you need it tuned, Brad is your guy. He's remarkably talented in a number of different areas. Model making and music is really his thing. So give him a call, 681-9723. 631 area code. Blues Man Piano Tuning. Right now, folks, we're going to talk some New York Mets. And to help us do that, a member of the 7-Line Army and our very own venerable Mets reporter, Chris Caputo. Hey, Chris, how are you tonight?
Okay, thanks for the intro.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. So I just want to see what's in your hand, Chris. Is there any type of white towel, white hanky waving? Ooh. Oh, there it is. That's the Met white towel. Are you throwing it in, Chris? That's what I want to know. Are they done?
Yeah, D-O-N-E, done.
Wow, you heard it, folks.
I never thought I would hear that coming out of your mouth, Chris. But listen, we chatted last night because Chris was at the game. Don't know whether I should bring that up or not because, seeing it in person has got to be well worse than watching it on TV as I was. But yeah, I'm sure you just got a sense. Was there a sense at the ballpark, Chris, that the wind is out of the sails?
Let's just put it this way: the crowd was way less than what you would have expected. Some people had off the next day, and maybe people are home with their holiday or whatever, but. The section that we were sat in, they sold out the night that Pete Alonso won the home run derby. It was dead in there. There was nobody there. And you win Monday and Tuesday night, and instead of the Mets going into the game 72 and 74, you're 74 and 72, probably maybe a game and a half out. Things are a little bit different, a little bit of hype. It's almost like Sunday night against your Yankees never happened. It was like a mirage. That whole thing. It was a facade. It was a dream. The Mets were just hungover. I can complain about how many Sunday night games the Mets have to play on ESPN. They're on again this week. They had to go cross country after playing the Dodgers. They had to go play the Giants. I think that needs to change. But for the most part, they're not hitting. And when they're pitching, they're not hitting. And when they're hitting, they're not pitching. And it's just, you can't sit there and really talk about playoffs when your team is 3 games under 500.
Yeah, Chris, I think you made a really terrific point about the emotion coming away from the Yankee series. Not only were those last 2 games real seesaw battles, but between that and all the 9/11 stuff and the little dust up between Lindor and Baez against Stanton, that series was really emotionally charged. And then you get against the Cardinals, a team you really need to compete with for a wild card, and they lay an egg for 3 games.
Yeah, there was a lot in that Yankees series. And, Trevor May not giving up a home run on Saturday night, and they probably sweep that series. Luis Rojas made very questionable decisions. We could talk about him later. But they really blew it, and having that situation where you get Baez to hit a home run to tie it in the bottom of the 9th inning. As bad as you play, you get yourself to a 10th inning, and you have first and third and one out, and the guy who hit 3 home runs is now grounding into a strange double play.
Chris, you alluded to Luis Rojas and some of the interesting, I'll say that, moves that he's made. Our fan again, John Reynolds, he said Luis must go. How much do you think he really is to blame? From the managerial standpoint, or is it just that he can try to push as many buttons as possible, and he's just not going to find the right combinations this year?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about Rojas and kind of how he fell into this role and whether or not he's the man for it. He's been around this team, but I just think as the season has gone on more and more, forget the 60 games last year. Let's talk about this year. Maybe his hands are tied at times, but he is an iPad. He has no feel, no pulse for the game. You got a guy that goes out there one time in Lugo, throws 7 pitches, and the next inning you're putting in a new guy, and you're saying that's because he's my 8th inning guy. Then you got Luke goes out there, throws 7 pitches, and the next inning you got to put in a reliever. And even his answers after the game just show he has no pulse. Let's think about this. The other night, to me, season on the line. You obviously have a bad situation. You don't score in the 10th or 10th inning. You go to the 11th inning, and you give up 3 runs. First off, why do you have a guy in who hasn't pitched in a month in a tough situation? You're asked about Lugo. You said he didn't pitch the day before, but he's not coming back quick, and we couldn't put him in a game. Okay, well, what about this guy? Well, he really wasn't available either. So why did you go to him instead of Trevor Williams, who Trevor Williams actually got him out of a jam later that inning? Well, we thought his right hand. Are you kidding me? A sidearm right-hander who hasn't pitched in a month was going to. So they ask him, are you playing this like your season is on the line? And his answers are, the games in April and May count the same as the games in September. You have no feel for the game. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
then
that's just tone deaf. Reading the room.
One more thing, guys. Then they come back. They make it 7-6. He's got a pinch hit for the pitcher. There's a lefty on the mound. Are you going Albert Almora with a big fat 0 RBIs or Luis Guillorme? I'm not going Guillorme because I don't want to go lefty-lefty. 5 minutes later, Albert Almora sent down to the minors so we can bring up Jose Peraza. The guy has no feel for the game. It's horrible.
Yeah, I want to ask you, Chris. I'm sorry, Mike.
No.
I want to ask you about. We've got news, it seems, in the last couple days or so that Sandy is going to be back running the show next year, but only from a financial standpoint. And the question I keep asking myself, maybe you can help me clarify it, is how do we separate, Chris, the financial dimension of it from the baseball dimension of it? I mean, when you decide who gets paid what, who gets what contract for what length of time, aren't those financial and baseball decisions?
I agree, Trez, and you're right on. And, his son is now taking a higher role in this organization now that some guys are waiting to go back to court to deal with their issues. It's bad. And, we've talked about this before. You need to clean house. Now, if you're going to clean house, who's going to make the baseball decisions, or who's going to make the hiring decisions about the people who are going to do the baseball stuff? We can make the whole list about why did we draft a guy who has arm problems and then not sign him? Why did we get 2 guys in here as GMs and then find out all these things about them? Why did we not do our background on Lindor and what his issues were? And there's just so many things that they've failed on. And I think Alderson is just getting too many shots. It's time to move on. I know you guys would ask who it would be. Everybody likes Theo. I don't want to deal with the clashing of Theo and Steve Cohen.
Yeah, Chris, you must have read my mind because we were off air today. We were chatting about a story from the New York Post, I believe, talking about somewhat of the dysfunction already with Steve Cohen and how things are going. We have a question coming up here in just a second about perhaps some older Mets coming back, some 86 Mets coming back to manage. But before that, Chris, I know he's probably trying to generate some buzz and whatever else, but Steve Cohen's constant social media presence and I'm not even going to get into the specifics of what he talks about. Do you think that ultimately down the line that could be something that would scare off, great talent, whether it be in the boardroom, on the field, or is it just part of the new breed of person, owner, media that we have these days? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to talk on the field. One of two things is going to happen. You brought up the 86 Mets. The 86 Mets were the social media before there was social media. They were crazy, right? Right?
Yes.
Who knows how much the bill was for that airplane on the way home from Houston? Could have been 10 grand. It could have been 100 grand. But Davey Johnson went in and said, I don't care what you guys do. We're ripping this bill up. We're going to win the World Series, and they'll make money off of it. The guys were crazy. The stories, watch the documentary, absolutely hysterical, good stuff. But I think about them now, and this love affair for Steve Cohen with social media, I think it is hard to bring in quality people when your billionaire is airing his laundry out on Twitter. I think
it's gotten really silly, Chris. And John Wepler, an old buddy of mine, John, thanks for tuning in and commenting. He asked specifically about Wally Backman. I don't know if he's asking that question in a serious way, but would you, Chris Caputo, give any consideration to bringing Wally on board to replace Luis if Luis goes?
You know, I just went out to a Ducks game and saw Wally, and he just looks miserable out there. I mean, it's really tough. But think about this, guys.
Fly slip's a rough place, Chris.
Oh.
We spent some NYIT references there. We'll get to someday.
Oh gosh.
No,
let's just put Wally Backman's name in with a search engine, and he's probably not the guy the Mets need to be hiring right now. Think about all the troubles he had. He wasn't going to be the Diamondbacks. He was with the Ducks. We found out there was a possibility he had a situation with a female. You can't do it. Now, here's the other thing.
And it's such a shame because he really did have and his personality kind of he'd be the perfect type of manager I think that the team needs. But yeah, unfortunately, good old Wally, while we love him, I think his at least major league career as a manager is probably passed by.
But I think it's hard. I mean, let's say Rojas is gone. It is hard to think about who the next Mets manager would be, because how much the Mets are going to do their due diligence, hopefully, in hiring somebody, but how much of a second chance are they going to give somebody who had some type of checkered past, something I like to give people second chances. Like you saw that one of the things out there they're saying is, and again, this is from a source, so if you want to go search Twitter to see who this source person is, and it's crazy, but because of the upheaval in the front office, Sandy Alderson, supposedly, according to a source, wants to keep Rojas, whereas Cohen seemed to have liked Beltran when he was first hired. Could you give a guy like Beltran a so-called first chance when he never even got his first chance last time? I think they probably would have to go get a really clean guy who hasn't had something negative on his resume.
And I agree with you from the Mets standpoint, because has there been anybody in the front office, obviously, GM, interim GM, the situation with Beltran before
Mickey Callaway, come on,
I was just going to say that. I mean, it's just been one thing after another, and especially with a new owner. That's why, having him come in here and getting on the players, I was all for that. I said, you know what, listen. I'm not about dressing guys down, but I think that was great. Shows interest. When you're worried about, New York Post articles or what's going on Twitter, I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous with this. I don't want to, but I don't want it to become a circus. But yeah, it's going to be squeaky clean is going to have to be the next Met manager and or general manager.
And I think with the owner, it's going to go one way or the other. Things are going to get really good because he's going to be really hands-on, and people are going to want to play for him because of his money and his dedication, or he's going to turn people off, and it's going to go the opposite way, and they're going to be searching for guys from AAA.
So, Chris, just real quickly on the front of players, yes. Javi Baez, do you bring him back? Do you think about bringing him back? Marcus Stroman, do you overpay for him?
I think if you're bringing Baez back, it's not 100% for his bat. It's for his connection with Lindor, and I don't think that's the right move. I think there's other guys out there. You'd have to put him at second base. He's probably going to ask a lot of money. If he'll come here for the cheap, I think it's a possibility. But unfortunately, Lindor, I'm sorry, but we got to get rid of some people who are a little bit of a cancer. Now, I love Baez on the field. I love the hustle. I think he's got great smarts. and maybe you do bring him back at a lighter price. That's going to be tough. Honestly, guys, you could pick on Stroman all you want. He's 9-12. He's got the most starts in the major leagues. He's going out there. If you look at his run support or his record when the Mets score 3 or more runs, he's basically undefeated. He's not a bad pitcher.
No, he's done exactly what he needed to do this year.
And for a guy who did not pitch at all last year, he did great. Now we can have the controversy. Should he have come out after 6 innings the other night when there's 17 games left in the season? That could be debated. But go down the Mets lineup and look at the guys who have started games from them, from the Robert Stocks to, it's no good. And you expected to see at some point Syndergaard. You didn't expect 15 starts and a 1.05 ERA from DeGrom and then gone. Walker gave you half a season basically, and then he fell apart. And now we're trying to throw Rich Hill and we thought we'd get something out of Carrasco. Now I'm going to say this one more time. I'm going on Saturday nights. Carrasco against Nola. Can we throw Aaron Loop for the first inning and then put Carrasco in the second inning? He has a 15 ERA in the first inning and 3 after that.
How is that humanly possible for a major league pitcher?
Don't not get there late, Chris.
Not ready to go.
Don't get there late. The one thing I do want to ask you before we let you go, Chris, can you do me a huge favor and put a slapping around on Boston in the middle of next week for me, okay?
I think the matchups are in our favor right now. We got Stroman against the Houck guy and McGill against Pivetta. I think that they're in our favors. The 7 line is actually going to be 1,500 strong at one of the games. But I think the Mets are unfortunately probably going to be spoilers. Now today, I know this kind of sounds strange. If you want to say the Mets are in it, they're 4 back in the win column, but 7 back in the loss column. So obviously the Braves have more games to play. Braves got rained out today. I believe that game is still TBA, which means that even if the Mets think they're possibly in it, if they're 3.5 out going into the series, the Braves might have to play the day after the season ends against the Rockies. Who do you think the Rockies are going to care that day? You think the Rockies are going to fly in with no? So the Mets are probably in a bad spot. If they think they're going to try and get back in this, they're in a tough spot. Now, here's the thing. If you really think the Mets are going to get back in it, I've kind of done the math. The Mets have to go 14-1 the rest of the way.
Nah, that's not happening, Chris.
That's they got to get
done. You waved the towel.
Thank you for even doing the math.
Because that would put them at 85 wins, and the Braves would then go like whatever 9 and whatever. It just the thing is they do control some of their own destiny. They have 6 games against the Phillies and the Braves. So if they could sweep the Phillies, maybe we talk. But they're not going to get the wild card. You were right before, Trez. If they would have taken 2 out of 3 and possibly swept the Cardinals, they would have been right back in the thick of things.
Absolutely. Chris, we got to run. We still got to get to Jets and Giants, but we thank you. Great job as always, and we'll probably talk to you in a couple weeks, okay?
Awesome, guys.
Enjoy
Chris,
that game.
Yeah, enjoy the games and keep in touch via text, and I'll try to talk you down if it's 6-0 after Carrasco's first inning.
So, Mike, somebody's got to get the short shrift tonight. It looks like it's going to be Jets, Jets. But we do have to dig into them for a few minutes.
Well, listen, you know what? Jet fans, and it's a shame because we had a couple on before, but I'd like to hear their feedback. Every first half of the first game with a new quarterback, especially a rookie and with some injuries, is not going to look pretty. So they got down. They fought to come back. I was not disappointed at all in Zach Wilson. I thought he's strong, took a huge couple of hits, got up. Everything I read today about him was that his teammates were very impressed about his toughness, that he has the goods. You're going to feel, I would think, pretty good about them. You get Keelan Cole back. He didn't play. And now, trying to think who else. Somebody else is coming off the injured list as well, the COVID list. So you're going to have Crowder. I'm sorry. So Crowder, their number one receiver the last couple of years. So
Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, they're gaining. They lost Mekhi Becton.
Yes.
Big injury.
And Vera Tucker. So the whole left side of that line is gone.
That's a big one. So where do you go from that? Can you keep your expectations? Listen, toughness. They stayed in the game. They didn't fall apart. We're going to talk about the Giants here in just a second. Little different dynamic. But one game in, nothing I really feel to push the panic button about the Jets.
Yeah, listen, everybody wants to zero in on Zach Wilson. 20 for 37, 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now, again, this is an NFL debut. That's not bad to me.
No.
The Jets had some good offensive performances by the receivers.
Yeah, Corey Davis,
5 catches, 97 yards, and 2 TDs.
That's your big guy right there who you brought in. And what did he do? He performed.
Absolutely.
So, listen, being a New York Met fan who we bring in every free agent and they do nothing, as a Jet fan, if I was one, I would be very excited about that. That's production.
Yeah, absolutely. Braxton Berrios, 5 catches, 51 yards. Marty Lyons told me last week he wanted to see more from the tight end Croft. Croft had 3 catches, 26 yards. And Denzel Mims, who I've been looking for more from, had just 1 catch, but it was for 40 yards. So,
ball was spread at least.
Absolutely. But the running game, Mike, was a little anemic in that game. I mean, really, your main rusher was Coleman, who had 24 rushing yards. So that's not going to get it done. They need a little bit more balance, as clearly do the Giants. On the Carolina side, Sam Darnold, he got his measure of revenge against the Jets. 279, 1 TD, 2 Robbie Anderson, former Jet, 24 for 35.
Yep. That's what Sam Darnold is programmed to do.
And absolutely, if you watch that play, Mike, if you saw it live or on the highlights, you saw Robbie Anderson absolutely smoked both guys that were trying to cover him. I
think he's still running.
Yeah, it was a little bit embarrassing. Christian McCaffrey, who, let's be honest, Mike, is one of the real true studs in the NFL. 9 receptions for 89 yards, 21 carries for 98 yards. That's 187 all-purpose yards from scrimmage.
30 touches, right?
Yeah. I mean, so, the Jets don't have a Christian McCaffrey. No. Not a lot of teams have a Christian McCaffrey. So, I think he made a big difference in that game. But listen, we don't want to zero in on Sam Darnold. But if you're Sam, you got to feel good.
Absolutely. Well, listen, look at the talent level that he left and has gone to in Carolina, at least with just a running back in McCaffrey, who is also a pass catcher, who just takes pressure off. We just had a comment from my friend Steve from way back in the day that the Jets need to run the rock to get the play action going. Absolutely. If you can't establish the run, and your left side of your offensive line is tough, and you're trying to meld with receivers, it's gonna be a long day. Some of these games necessitate getting away from the run if you get down a little bit early, but they weren't so far out of the game that I think it was that difficult to establish a running game.
Yeah, and if you look who's coaching against the Jets this week.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the evil genius himself, he's going to come up with a game plan, Mike, to give a rookie quarterback a hard time against New England.
Yeah, is there any other coach that you would fear as much as you would Bill Belichick going up against a rookie? I mean, he gives veterans a fit, from week to week.
Absolutely. So, and plus, the Patriots are coming off a 1-point loss against Miami, so Belichick's not going to be in a good mood, and he's going to be looking to take it out on young Mr. Wilson in that game. So let's shift gears for just a couple minutes, Mike, and react to the Giants game on Sunday. And then what we can do is we can preview the Giants game tonight. Obviously, an 8:20 game down in Washington against the football team. So Giants last week, Daniel Jones, 22 for 37, 267, 1 touchdown, but
fumble.
So, here's my thing, Mike. I am so tired of people already. We're 1 game into the season calling to bench Daniel Jones in favor of Mike Glennon. It's not like you have a really great backup back there, Mike. You have Mike Glennon. So I'm talking to you, Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan, do me a favor. You're a clown.
Is he even still around, Rex?
Shut up. I mean, here's Rex trying to call attention himself.
Oh, please.
At Daniel Jones's expense. Folks, here's what I can tell you. Giant fans, if you think that the Giants are benching Daniel Jones anytime soon for Mike Glennon.
Turn your TV off.
You are delusional. It's not happening, folks. Am I frustrated with Jones for fumbling on like the 10-yard line in that game? Is Mike Gadone frustrated with him?
Absolutely. I mean, my goodness, that's the one thing that he was really supposed to work on, was fumbling and turnovers. I don't want to kill him, because at least it was an aggressive type play. It wasn't where he went back and, listen, ball security is important, but he was just getting ball stripped out of his hands, in the pocket last year. He's trying to make something happen. Was it the worst time? Yes, absolutely. It was the absolute worst time. But looking at the Giant offense, listen, Jason Garrett, to me, is, can you get a little creative?
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of that conversation really over the last year, and it came to the forefront again, reacting off of this past Sunday's loss against Denver. Jason Garrett is being knocked for lack of imagination.
Right, and I was just going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm sure you're going right on that point as well. Kadarius Toney, now, I don't know, again, he didn't come in, lost a lot of training camp, whatever. But this dude is your top offensive pick here, right? He's a weapon. You hear all these things. We're going to end arounds. We're going to options, all sorts of stuff. Was he even on the field? I mean, did they do anything that would have been somewhat creative?
Kadarius Toney, you ready for this, Mike? 2 receptions.
About 12 yards.
-2. -2.
Oh,
Mike, I can do that. Put me in.
Listen, I
just don't want to get tackled.
I'd at least, just get tackled on the line of scrimmage. I could hopefully catch the ball. -2.
-2. But the good news is, when you look up and down the stat sheet, Sterling Shepard had a really nice game. 7 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Jones looked terrific on that drive. The problem to me in that game wasn't even Daniel Jones. It wasn't even the lack of production you got out of the running game. It was really the Giant defense, Mike.
Yes.
They could not get Denver off the field on 3rd down. They were a step slow trying to catch up with Teddy Bridgewater all day long. They just couldn't get him. And what we started to see in the second half of that game, regrettably, started to remind me of the Giants, ironically, under Pat Shurmur. Lack of discipline, guys running around the secondary like chickens with their heads cut off, and a lack of discipline in terms of hitting the quarterback late, hitting guys out of bounds. Those are the types of penalties, lack of discipline, lack of focus you saw with the Giants under the Shurmur regime.
Absolutely. I was speaking to a friend of mine after the game, and he said, what were your thoughts? I said, one word kept coming to my mind: regression. They look to just regret. And that plays to your point exactly. And even their head coach. Here's Joe Judge making guys run laps, accountability, all those things, right? What does he do? He's so frustrated, he throws a red flag, a challenge flag on a play that can't be challenged, loses a timeout. After the game, says, I take full accountability.
Well, that's good.
However, but I was trying to get their attention.
Whose attention?
Exactly.
The refs? So they could take a timeout away from you?
Listen, coach, take accountability. Say, I messed up. I was upset. I threw the challenge flag. But then don't justify it saying I needed to get the attention. I mean, come on. It was just like 8 o'clock on Sunday night. As a Giant fan, you're going, Thursday night, thank goodness, we don't have to wait any more than 4 or 5 days to get this team back out on the field and get the stench out of the uniforms.
Yeah. So, to me, yes, it was a disappointing offensive performance when you look at only 13 points. But when you look at the stat sheet again, Slayton, 3 catches, 65 yards. Your man Galladay, 4 receptions, 64 yards.
Looked a little better in the second half. They started to get a little rapport, hopefully.
Exactly. And again, that's going to take a little time too when you talk about Galladay having missed all the training camp, right? So, I mean, there is some good news to take away from that loss, is that they moved the ball well throughout most of the first half and even some of the second half. I think what's important to zero in on, Mike, setting up tonight's game is this. Number one, what's the latest on Saquon Barkley? And if you were Joe Judge, would you play Saquon tonight?
The latest I had was that he was going to play, and that they were going to establish him early and often, and just take the reins off him, so to speak. He's ready to be explosive, and if he's going to be explosive, now's the time. Now, the Washington defense is not some JV team that's coming in there and is going to say, "Oh, Saquon's playing tonight. Let's
let me get out
there
of his way.
Yeah, let me Olay defense." That's something else. Hopefully the Giants are in a position with Taylor Heineke starting that he will struggle and they'll get decent field position and set things up. Is that going to happen? Let's hope so. Many things have to break properly, but as of the time coming in here, Saquon's ready to go, and if they can establish him early, that'd be a great sign.
So if Saquon doesn't play, because honestly, Mike, I'm not sure I would play him tonight.
Okay,
all right. You're coming off a major injury. Your performance last week was meager, would be the kind way of putting it.
He got his
10
feet wet.
carries, 26 yards. But if you don't play him tonight, now you've got 10 days until your next game, and now he can really get his feet. I mean, under him. There are advantages and disadvantages to doing it both ways.
Had the Giants won that game, ifs and buts, it would be a no-brainer that he sits tonight. I would think this from a logical standpoint, you make great sense. I mean, give him 10 days off, bring him back. This is New York, and every game. I mean, the NFL, every game is important, but people will jump off the bandwagon very fast. Boy, that's a tough call.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not in no shoes.
Yeah, and if you don't play Barkley, can Devin Booker be the guy who can carry the ball 15, 20 yards? Would you trust him in that role?
Whew. I feel like you guys trying to answer the Yankee questions before. Would I trust him? You'd have to. I mean, listen, do you trust people? I was thinking about, as we were talking about Teddy Bridgewater, and him starting and looking tremendous, and he had no rapport with that. He'd never played with those guys. If you're a baller, you're playing. Can the Giants, is it, you put the guy back there, it's production. Let's hope so. Let's really hope somebody breaks out behind the ball tonight.
What are we hearing, Mike, in terms of the status of Evan Engram going into tonight's game? And if he's not playing, is Kyle Rudolph healthy enough to make an impact in this game?
Well, I don't have anything, unfortunately, at the moment on Engram as I'm looking here. I will say this. I was huge and high on Kyle Rudolph coming in. If you remember a couple of months back when we talked about, his impact along with Galladay, I was very, very excited. Huge. I said, this is the kind of guy the Giants need. Healthy enough? Let's hope so. Again, I'm using the word hope here quite a lot. Hope, hope, hope. Keep hope alive. I guess at 7:35, in an hour or so, we're going to see what's going on. I just want the Giants tonight, whoever's playing, just to be competitive, stay in the game. Give us a little hope. Let me ask you really brief as we kind of finish up here. Coming out of Sunday, Jet or Giant fan, who felt better?
You know what? I think the Jets had to feel good.
I agree
about the performance of Zach Wilson.
Yes.
All right. Overall, how they felt about the team, I think it's very, very guarded optimism. Giant fans already, you can tell, are feeling a little bit frustrated, a little bit impatient. And again, if it wasn't for that one turnover by Daniel Jones, I think they would have come away, even with a loss, with a better feeling. But the fact that Daniel Jones did turn over the ball at such a crucial time, at such a critical place on the field. Mike, you're getting a good drive going, and,
you would have almost felt better if he threw a pick trying to make something happen, right? An interception, rather than the fumble. The one thing you don't want to see out of him. You could hear the groan in the stadium and the look on his face when he got up. He just was like, oh, no, please, not again.
It took a lot of the wind out of the sails of a Giant fan. But I will say, though, that Giants have some problems on the offensive line they need to address pretty quickly. I mean, for me, Mike, I got to be honest with you. I'm tired of looking at Nate Solder. I don't want to see him anymore. Nate Solder, get out of here, please. You opted out last year. You know what? Opt out again this year.
Yeah. He basically opted out of the first game anyway.
I mean, come on. Give back your paycheck. You're a turnstile.
That's the ultimate Olay right there.
But I will say, the rest of the offensive line, I think, is gelling. And with a little work and a little time, people were down on Andrew Thomas last year. He was a rookie left tackle. So I think he's growing into his role. I think Hernandez is fine. Giant fans like the center Gates. Lemieux is out tonight, so we'll see what they do in that spot. But listen, the good news is you're playing against Taylor Heineke, okay? So can the Giants make enough adjustments on the defensive side of the ball, Mike, to put some heat on an athletic but inexperienced quarterback like Heineke?
Well, inexperienced, yes, but he did play a playoff game last year that, big time set up right there, which you kind of get your feet wet pretty fast. So is he feeling? He's probably jacked up to play. He's a different kind of quarterback, obviously mobile than Fitzpatrick. So they've had a couple of days here at least to plan and know that's the type. So the game plan should be in place. It's just a matter of putting it into action.
Yeah. So Yanks right now, folks, as we speak, ahead 2-1 down in Baltimore. Top of the seventh, okay. Michael Anthony says. Thank you for updating us, Michael. And if the Yanks lose for the 8th time to the lousy, stinking Orioles, Mike Cadone, I am going to throw my television out the window.
Don't send up the white flag, though. You're not in Metland at the moment.
So, folks, that's going to do it for us here at Spot on Sports. Great show tonight. We want to thank Brad Merila for being our guest. Don't forget, folks, Blues Man, piano tuning. Brad Merila, the man with the perfect pitch.
Just want to jump in. Evan Ingram, inactive tonight.
Okay. Thank you for that update. 631-681-9723 for Brad Merila, Blues Man tuning. Thank you, Brad. Congratulations on finding a permanent home for your two very impressive models.
Deserved.
We want to thank Chris Caputo for hopping on with us. Great job out of Chris, as he always does. We're here at the Format Studio in beautiful downtown Deer Park, part of the J12 family of podcasts. Thrilled to be so. Our theme music, Spot On, is by Scott Daly. Our logo art is by Valerie Hanatic, the Jets fanatic. Our voiceover guy is the amazing Archie Snowden. Our engineer-producer is the incomparable Michael Anthony. Thank you to everybody who came on tonight and who commented us. For everyone here at Spot on Sports, including the coach, Mike Cadone, this is Mike Trezor saying we'll see you next time on Spot on Sports.
Spot on Sports is brought to you by the Belfast Gastropub, where love stories begin. Located at 101 North Wellwood Avenue, Lindenhurst, New York.